Welcome to Unshakeable, the podcast that shares stories of resilience in the face of life's toughest challenges. I'm your host, Siviwe Shakes Soizwapi, and each week we dive into real conversations that not only inspire but help us grow, offering insights on how to navigate our own struggles with strength and purpose. Because resilience isn't about being unbreakable, it's about standing firm when life tries to shake you. This is Unshakeable. Let's get into it. Hello, Unshakeable family. Today I sit down with a guest whose journey spans nations and purpose. Born in Fiji, his love for rugby took him through Australia, but life and love led him to South Africa, where he now calls home. Beyond the game is part of A21, a global organization fighting slavery and human trafficking, where he serves in South Africa, and he does remarkable work in the South African branch and making a real impact. On the field, he's represented South Africa in tag rugby, coached once the SA tag side, and is now the assistant coach for the South African Rhinos rugby league team. A humble, grounded man. He's also devoted to his wife, Katie, proud husband, proud father of 3 girls, and his story is about sport, faith, family, and life of purpose. Welcome to Unshakeable, Gilbert, MODRAU.
Awesome, thanks for having me, man. Introduction was nice, actually.
Gilly, I'll start with the elephant in the room.
Yes.
And born in Fiji but living in South Africa. I know rugby is a religion in Fiji, especially rugby sevens. When you watch Fiji come up against South Africa, who are you supporting? Honesty call.
Honestly, look, both teams, as you know, equally talented. But you know, the way I see it is a win-win. But at the end of the day, the biggest winner is rugby. So that's my answer, and I'm probably going to stick to that one.
And you're sticking with that, eh?
Yes, I'm sticking with it.
So, like I said, rugby in Fiji is literally like a religion, and it's something so beautiful to see how the passion for the game is so strong, and also the humble beginnings of the community and the community itself within Fiji is just remarkable. So what role did rugby and the community play in shaping you as a person?
Yeah, that's a loaded one. I mean, the simplest answer is it gave opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, and like with South Africa as well, it gives hope that you can use it as a platform to move forward in what I believe you're called to do. So I think it shaped me in the sense like it instilled discipline, because you know sports does that. But growing up in Fiji, you want to represent Fiji, or you just want to play. Actually, you just want to play, and if you represent Fiji, it's a bonus.
Yeah.
But I think it's how it's shaped me. It's taken me around the world. I mean, I'm all the way here in South Africa. I never would have thought. I mean, I remember watching the 1995 World Cup. We had one TV, the village rented the TV, and we watched it together, and we just seen it. And then, you know, a couple of years, I think it was 2014, I find myself sitting in Ellis Park, seeing that same plane go over, and it was quite surreal, I reckon, I suppose. But yeah, so I think that's how it shaped me.
Bro, how would you? Wow, like with Fiji, like you mentioned, now you guys came in and almost the whole village sat down and watched a Rugby World Cup or a rugby game. Why is rugby so big in Fiji?
You'd think I know the answer to that, but I think you can almost say it's an escape. Like it's a way to celebrate something that a small nation, no one would expect to do well in or to achieve. I think that's probably the biggest thing. I think I think it would be that, just knowing that you know, a little small nation can be on the world stage. I think that's exciting, you know, and I think that's why there's a lot of support behind it as well, because you're literally representing the people when you're out on that stage. Because as you know, like with South Africans, if you win, you're the best. If you lose, someone's head's on the chopping block there. So I suppose that's it.
It's so incredible to watch, and you always see it within the sevens circuit. if there's so many players that have come through, if there's one player injured or one player that just decides to go to 15s or whatever the case may be, there's one ready to go to take on the challenge of putting on the Fiji Sevens jersey. You also mentioned that it gave you the opportunity. Rugby gave you the opportunity to move around the world and travel. You found yourself in Australia as well. Why did you move to Australia, and what was that experience like?
Yeah, so obviously born and raised in Fiji till the age of about 15, and then moved to Australia with my dad. I actually wanted to play hockey growing up. I was a hockey player. And then my friend took me to a rugby league training, and then from there, rugby league obviously is the other version of rugby, one of the versions. So, and then from there, I kind of caught the bug. I mean, I always played touchies and all that back home in Fiji, but so I moved with my dad, and then pretty much spent the rest of my teenage life and some of my adult life in Australia, and then. Met my wife there, Katie, and now I'm here in South Africa, pretty much a local. Then.
Nah, that's why I said this is where you call home now.
It is. It is.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like, I've literally sat down with so many people that started off their sporting journeys in something completely different. I myself played soccer, ended up doing rugby. You had a love for hockey, and then now you're on the rugby pitch. What was the experience like in South Africa? I mean, you were born in Fiji, like you said, a small island, and now you're moving to this. And which part of Australia were you at?
So I grew up in Sydney, which is mainly city. So you can imagine a village kid from Fiji moving to a big
city,
lights. The big lights. Overwhelmed at first, but and then obviously moved to South Africa. And you said, like, what was my first experience?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I think because I'd moved first from Australia, from Fiji to Australia, so the habit, if you like, of moving to a different country was already there.
Yeah.
So moving countries wasn't a big thing, but understanding and accepting a different culture was probably the challenging part, because it's similar to some part, but like so different culturally as well. So having to learn the different culture and language. When I say language, I don't speak Afrikaans or any other language, the 11 languages, but I think the biggest eye-opener was culturally. I think that was a big adjustment, I think. Yeah.
Just chat more about that. What are the big differences? I know when we see the Fiji, like, we share hotels with all the teams that we when we travel and go play, and I promise you, like, there's so much energy in the Fijian camp, and the guys, I think they love water. If they're in the pool, they either dunking each other's heads in the water, or they are kind of swimming and racing in the water and stuff like that. Obviously, there's a lot of sea, water, and oceans and all of that, the beach, so that's probably one of the reasons. But what are those big differences culturally that you picked up in Oz?
Compared to here?
Compared to Fiji.
Compared to Fiji. Yeah. Okay, so if you know most Fijians, they're like quite loud and fun, but they're quite reserved as well.
Yeah.
To a degree, they're very white and very like calm and quiet and
humble.
And I think the respect thing. So in Fiji, when you grow up, the elders, or the elders, like the older men in the village, if they say something, you don't respond back. And then moving to Australia, having to see your friends, and then they like talking back, and then you think, oh, I wonder if this will work at home. Then you quickly remind yourself it's not going to work the same. And I think opportunities as well, like, you've been just growing up in Fiji, just told that it's either rugby or farming. And I think moving to Australia, it actually opened up my eyes as well. So hey, actually, there's more opportunities out there if you look for it. If you make an effort to find it. So I think that was culturally probably the biggest difference there. Learning to be a bit more quiet around your neighbours in Australia. It's something we had to learn, because we're always talking and singing and jamming and all that. So I think that was it was a bit different in terms of culturally.
I like that you mentioned the singing part, because that's also something massive. Before the game, in their change room, they're singing. It sounds like hymns, and it sounds like traditional songs. Does this in your culture, the singing part, I think just chat more on that, and I just want to see where it comes from. Is it religion? Is it a cultural thing, or that's something you guys really love?
Yeah, I would say definitely more religion and like a spiritual form of worship, like for us. Like singing is an expression of worship, as you would know.
Yes.
And I think growing up in a very religious country, you grow up in it and it becomes part of life, than rather just something doing. And I think it's also a way that you kind of shut off from everything else. Singing, whether you can sing or not, I think growing up in Fiji, if you can open your mouth and say words.
Is Gilly gonna give us a line?
No, man. That's why we sing in choir, so we can hide like in the background. But I think that's it, man. I think it's a good reminder that the guys that sing, it's a good reminder, like sport is part of what you do, but it's not who you are. I know it's such a cliche thing, but it's just a reminder, hey, like we're going to go out here, give our best, but at the end of the day, it doesn't define us. I think it's just a sense of just humbling yourself and just being grateful for the opportunity. I think it's hymns and it's a song of great gratitude, I would say.
Rugby doesn't define you, but there are defining lessons that you get out of the game. And very obviously good. In those early days that you were in Fiji and that time in your life was still early days when you moved to Oz, what are those defining lessons for you that still guide you today?
I think gratitude, as I said before, being grateful for where you're at, and not so much where you're going. I think best way to answer that question, and this is again, it's probably cliche and cheesy, but there's a saying that says what you get to be a part of is bigger than the part you play. Like the part you play is important, but what you get to be a part of is bigger than that. And I think when I learned that lesson, because in terms of rugby, I probably wasn't the best. I wasn't the first pick, right? But I was, I suppose, okay enough to be around, and I was kind of the seat fillers they have in those award shows. I think I was that guy, and I think having that motto of being a part of something bigger, I think that allowed me to be, hey, I'm not the best player, but I'm here. I get to be a part of this. Like whatever the experience is, I get to experience it as well. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. It's like, wow, I get to be a part of it. So gratitude is, I would say, is the big thing.
How old were you, Gil, when you moved to
15? I just turned 15.
Then you did your schooling there?
Yeah, I did my schooling there and then worked there for a bit, and then met my wife, and then I moved over. I mean, lots of lessons along the way. But
carry on and tell us about that love story with Katie, where you met, and there's also a cultural difference there as well.
Yeah, massive. But to start with, it's my story. I'm sticking to it. She stalked me at Facebook for a while, and eventually, we met through church. She was doing Bible college at church, and then she served at one of the campuses for church. And a friend of mine took me because it was a family Sunday. And you invite friends, and usually at lunch, that small campus would, everyone bring a plate or pot each, and they would share meals. And Islanders, where there's food, like we somehow attracted to it. So we got there, met her, we just talked, and then started a conversation in Facebook, and then eventually started hanging out and getting to know each other, and then. I guess the rest is history. She did, by the way, stand me up on our first date for 3 hours, by the way. But as I went home, she called me and said, hey, sorry. She has a reason, an excuse. I'll let her tell that story another time. She called me 3 hours after turning up, but I'd gone home and I went back. Eventually she called me. So talk about resilience. I mean.
That's love, bro. That's love. When you know the one, you don't give up.
No, you don't. So then we decided, she knew she was coming back home, and so I knew I had to make the decision, which was obviously, you would imagine, was quite difficult. But I knew, okay, this is a good opportunity to experience another culture, another life, and obviously it's the next phase of your life, so you don't have time to kind of muck around at my age that time. Anyway.
Yeah, no, amazing. So obviously you decided that this is the one, and this is the one I will move to another country for. That was the case.
Yeah.
And so you then, so at what stage did you then decide, okay, I'll finish you're obviously out of school now. You're just playing league and working.
Yeah.
Then you met Katie.
Yeah.
And then what were you doing then when you decided to, did it not, okay, let me ask it this way. What you were doing, was it not affected because you were going to get married or you decided to follow your heart? And what was it exactly that you were doing? Were you part of a certain team, and where were you working?
No, I wasn't playing. I was just doing odd jobs around at that time.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anything that was set in stone. And I think what you will know this about me, like faith is big, and
massive.
And I do pray, like in decisions like that, I have to pray and seek God. And I think one of the questions, I know one of the questions I prayed was, give me one reason not to go. And sometimes God's silence is your answer. And when I didn't get a reason, I said, okay, this is it. And I had a chat with my dad, because she already knew where she was going to end up. I think that kind of helped the decision as well. I think we met when I was 31, maybe 30. And I just thought, like, if this is the time to settle down, so to speak, this is the age to do it. And prayed about it, and just really felt, okay, this is what we need to do, and God, you need to have your way in this. So I think that's sort of, it's not a big story or anything, but I think that's pretty much it.
Fijian boy meets a South African girl who went to Renish down the road here, and went to the University of Cape Town.
She did.
South African through and through, and now living a life in South Africa, and started your life, and like you said, settled down in South Africa. Then moving here, how was that?
In terms of?
Just in general, like you, it's different now compared to Fiji and Australia, and now the world is literally being open to you layer by layer everywhere you go. And what was the difference then when you came to South Africa, which is like a different layer that you're tapping into?
One thing, obviously, when you're starting to talk about marriage and that life, you start thinking about, okay, what career, what job am I looking into? And one of the challenging things I found that moving to South Africa was it's very hard to find a job unless you have a special skill or anything. So I think whereas in Australia you can, there's the jobs are everywhere, from construction to mail sorting, and you could still kind of live a life on it. So I think that was probably the biggest difference. And then so we decided that I'd volunteer for a year. I saved some money for that time, and my wife she had already started, as you mentioned, A21 here. So we decided that I'd volunteer for a year, and then halfway throughout the year start looking for jobs. And at the end of that volunteer, which is 2014, we went away on a trip. It was actually a work trip, and then on that work trip, the CEO actually asked me, hey, did you check your email? And I was like, no, what's happening? And he said, well, we want to offer you a job. And I was like, okay, cool, awesome. So again, that was a step of faith, like, hey, we're just going to let God provide in this situation. And then when I got back to Cape Town, somebody actually approached me and offered me a job, which is my dream job, in sports ministry. So amazing. I was a bit torn there. So we prayed about it. This time I had a prayer partner and my wife, so we prayed together, and I went into the interview. The employers actually said, yeah, take a week. And then when we got there, I just felt in my spirit like, hey man, like this was a sacrifice. Like, it's my dream job. What am I doing? But then I walked out of that meeting like at peace, and then that was with A20. So now I've been with A21 since 2015. Since being on staff. So
you also played tag, and you also coached the tag side. How'd you get into that?
Well, I always played Oztag back in Australia because it's quite big there as well. And then when I got here, I saw that it was they played league here, so I called them and said, hey, well, where can I sign up for the leagues? And then played it. We had some of our boys. You met them, Mike, and just a bunch of boys from church. Like, hey man, like we're pretty much past our time here in terms of rugby, but tag's a good way to, still show we can put it with the younger boys. And then obviously the course of time got more involved, and then end of 2017, tag kind of said, hey, would you mind coaching? Because of my league background, because the two sports are similar in terms of rules, just without contact in tag. And so they asked me, would you mind coaching? And I thought, it's another challenge, and it's another way to stay involved in sport. So took that opportunity. And
so you were coaching there?
Yeah, so for about 7 years, I think it was.
Was that after or before the dream job of
that was after.
After that?
Yeah, that was after.
So you were part of 821, was in ministry for sports, and then you took the tag coaching gig.
Yeah, that was, so tag coaching, it was voluntary, obviously.
Oh, okay.
So so I had to do it in my free time as well. So but again, like when you're passionate about something, you're gonna find a way.
Yes.
You're gonna find time for it. But yeah, that's kind of like how it kind of came about.
Yeah. Was it more the sports that you talk about passion? Was it passion towards the sport or working with people? Because like you said, I know your heart, I know your faith. And what was it?
Yeah, it was more the latter, like working with people. I love the thought of development.
Yeah.
I love witnessing the process of specifically young people come through, and just seeing how they progress through their development. That's the biggest thing, and working with people, as you said, I love that. Like, I mean, the challenge was coaching, because that's another beast altogether at every level. I can imagine the highest level, but it's people. I love people. I mean, Fijians, we're always around each other. There's always someone. People always ask me, like, how do you recharge? And again, complete opposite to my wife. She likes to sit at a cafe or on the beach and read a book. But I'm more like, I need to go and sit in the mall. I don't even have to talk to anyone. I can just sit there and just have the noise around me, and I get energized by it. That's probably why Fijians sing a lot, because they get energized by the noise.
You played a bit of rugby, then you played league, and then even though it was past your time, like you said, you played tag as well. Yeah. What are the major, and I like the fact that you say that coaching is hard. Yeah. What are the major differences between playing and coaching? Now we're talking about, I'm touching particularly into what you were saying, working with people.
With everything, at the end of the day, you're working with people. So as a coach, you have to learn how to, I think communication, how you communicate to your players is probably the key, because some respond differently and receive it differently. That's probably the biggest challenge I had, was trying to figure out, am I the coach, or what kind of coach do I want to be? That's the question I asked. Do I want to be the coach that the guys like, or do I want to be the coach that helps develop the guys and help them and guide them to achieving their goals? And some say, oh, you can pick, it's either or. And I'm like, no, you can actually have both. You have to have a balance, but it's exhausting because you have to find time and find ways on how to navigate and manage both. Yeah, the challenging stuff is dealing with people. But again, when you see the progress that they make, it makes it rewarding.
Yeah. With the ministry side, obviously, you would like to see the best out of them as people. But as a coach, obviously, you want them to reach their goals as players, as you said. Yeah. How do you navigate those two?
So I try and, in terms of my through communication, I try and kind of remind them that the disciplines or the skill sets that they learn in rugby could be applied. The same principles could be applied in life.
Amazing.
Because that's how they understand. So they understand how a play is made. They understand how to structure a team,
They got the talent.
Yeah, so they do. And one of the things is we always spoke about, I mean, there's a book called Talent is Never Enough. I think just
Very first book I read ever.
Yeah, I think I read it twice. I think that also changed, like educating yourself in different ways as well. But I think that's probably it, just finding that balance between using the skills that they find in rugby. Like discipline's a big one.
Yeah.
Like, discipline helps you create healthy habits, right? And the same applies for your personal life. You know, you can do you can apply the same principles to build healthier habits. And so I think that's one way. I'm sure there's 1,000 other ways, but that's one way that's helped me. And like I said, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, so I'm very simplistic, but that actually helps me in terms of how I communicate.
You'll be surprised how impactful you are, Gilly. I know you don't give yourself that much credit. And that was actually the next thing I wanted to ask about values. What values that you want to leave with the boys? And you mentioned discipline, which is a crucial one in rugby and in life as well. Your faith plays a huge role in your life, like we spoke about. When did your relationship with Jesus Christ become real and personal for you?
So that's a very good question. And let's start off, like I grew up in church. So my granddad was a pastor, my dad was a pastor. And so I've always been in church, but never had a relationship with God. I believed He existed, and I believe the good things that's happened to me is the blessings that I've received from Him. The bad things or the challenging seasons, He's carried me through it. But I would say, I don't think it's ever left me. But I think funny enough, I got baptized when I was 12. And then even then, the journey was still difficult. But I would say just before 18, I think that's where
you made the decision for yourself.
And look, there's obviously along the way you kind of get off track, and then you just kind of get back onto it. But 18, I would say, was probably the most defining moment that I realized, okay, I need to make sure my relationship with Jesus is solid.
And how has that relationship guided your decisions? You mentioned that you pray about a lot of things. How has that guided your decisions in rugby with A21 and just with family as well?
I think with anything that we encounter, I think my wife and I, we always pray for wisdom in how to navigate the seasons. I think scripturally I try to find something that I can hold as an armor or as a weapon in different seasons. But I think I would say, like, it's hard to, because it's every day. It's an everyday journey, so it's very hard to like say this time it worked, because I think you got to be consistently seeking God every day. And I think that's probably the thing that's helped me the most, because if I rely on yesterday's faith for today's challenge, I'm going to be in trouble. So so it's daily bread, as they say.
Give us this day our daily bread.
That's it.
But I can imagine, like, in all the different spaces you find yourself in rugby, I know personally, in just in general, with all the spaces you find yourself, just being bold about your faith and leading with that. How do you go about it? How do you take it on? How do you make sure that you are implementing what God requires from you without, because obviously in all these spaces you deal with different religions, different backgrounds, different types of people. How do you go about making sure that you are faithful to Jesus Christ, but yet kind of respectful and not Bible bash and all those types of things?
So the Bible bashing, I grew up on that era, so it was quite prominent, so I learned from that. I would say the simplest answer to that is being consistently present and consistent in your action. Like, you don't always get it right, but I think if people can see the consistency in how you act, I think that's probably the key. And you say dealing with different religions and backgrounds and cultures, I never try to, at least I don't try to, it's not my job to to convict someone or to, you know, get them to have a relationship with Christ. My job is just to be the best example I can, and hopefully that example represents who God is, and I think who Christ is. And I think people see that, but they see it consistently. You can't do it one day and then back off the other day. And I never go into, I believe what you're referring to is the work that I do within the rugby space as well as a chaplain. Is I don't Bible bash, but it's pretty clear. I use the principles that I know, biblical principles that I felt has helped me in my life. I don't say, hey, this will work for you, and this. I just, hopefully it comes out in my actions as well. And like I said, we don't always get it right. But yeah, I would say consistently being present.
Talk to us about the A21 organization and the work that you do. That is some deep work that you do, and kind of sometimes something that is overlooked, and yet it's so necessary.
Yeah, so A21 is a global anti-human trafficking organization, and my wife and I, we actually were part of the South African branch. She's actually my boss.
Your wife is your boss?
Yeah, but I get practice at home anyway, so it's all good. No, she's awesome. You know, our fight is against what they call modern day slavery, and many people, you know, because when we think about human trafficking, I mean, if I ask you human trafficking, we've been friends for a while now, so you kind of know, but the average person, first thing they think about is the movie Taken.
Yes.
You know, so what they don't realize is actually it's organized crime. They're very organized, and human trafficking is essentially the buying and selling of a human being for the purpose of exploitation. If you like, it's used as a commodity, like a coffee. We can make a coffee and drink it once, and that's it. But a human, you can use over and over again. You know, I think that's why we're so passionate about it. And yeah, if someone would ask me what's human trafficking, it's simply buying and selling of a human being for the purpose of exploitation, and obviously the monetary gain of the trafficker or the abusers. We've been, I think 13, I might be under correction, but we've been here 13, 14 years in South Africa. And our approach, we have a radical vision, I would say, a statement that says we want to be a part of abolishing slavery everywhere forever, which is quite a bold vision to have, but we serve a big God, you know. And people always ask me, like, you know, what's so unique about your job? And I say, well, think about it. If everyone everywhere forever is free from slavery, I'm out of a job. So I think that's what makes my job unique, you know, because I'm working my way out of a job. But as an organization, our approach to combating it is what we call the 3 R's: reach, through prevention and awareness programs in vulnerable communities and in schools. And then we have our rescue approach, which is we run the National Human Trafficking Hotline, South African National Human Trafficking Hotline, and we work with law enforcement. When we get tip-offs, we work with law enforcement to rescue the survivors. And that's part of our rescue approach. And then we have a restore approach, whereas once the victims or the survivors have been rescued and they've kind of gone to safe houses and over time gone through the program, we help them kind of get back into independence, which is it's a holistic approach as well. You know, we have amazing social workers that help them with some of the trauma that they would have gone through. And we have great partnership with government, with other NGOs, and I think that's the key. There's partnership. Like you can't do it alone. We've got to do it together. Actually, next month on the 4th of October, we have our Global Freedom Summit, which is a global broadcast that we and this year we're focusing on online child exploitation. That's one of our biggest focus at the moment, and that's happening from the 4th, so we airing it on the 4th, and there's ways to get involved. If you go online, a209.org, and it's basically, we're just telling people, hey, if you want to get involved, host one of these broadcasts, within your church, within your family, within your organization, schools, find a venue, and it's an hour broadcast, and it just brings awareness, but also gives parents practical ways to help protect your children. And one thing I'd probably encourage people, this is not to bring fear. It's about education and awareness on what human trafficking is, but also bringing hope that there is an answer and we can all do something. Our founder always says we can't do everything, but we can do something. I think the best way in sports terms, like you can get to a century just running singles, so every step counts. And I think and it's actually quite an honor to be a part of something like that. As I said earlier, the part we play, what we get to be a part of is bigger than just the part we play. And I think for me, having a sport background, finding myself in this this job is quite okay. I never realized this, but when you're called, God provides, and He'll give you the skills and the talents to do it. And obviously, I have 3 girls. It makes it even more close to the heart, and learning to control that emotion for others, having that hurt for other parents and other people. So we're quite passionate. My wife, Kate. I mean, Kate, she is phenomenal. The work she's done with 821 to establish what we've been able to achieve with partnership is amazing. And it's a daily thing. And we're very privileged to be a part of it. And globally we have amazing team around the world that continue to fight the good fight, as they say.
It's incredible work, and the more you go on and speak about it, like there's so many avenues and trenches we can go down and dig deeper into the rabbit hole. But just off the top of my head now, I realize that girls are definitely let's call it the easiest target.
Yeah, the vulnerable,
the most vulnerable. And like you said, you have 3 girls, and that would be that is something that you kind of close to your heart. And then this year's summit, I want to kind of take this opportunity as well to use this platform to push that a little bit more, the focus of children and not social media particularly, but online, a opportunity online for what do you call these people?
Traffickers.
The traffickers and people. Why that topic, and why that? I have a reason I'm thinking.
Why that focus?
Why that focus?
Great question. Because trafficking looks different these days. It's evolved over the years. So what we think is slavery, it's evolved, and exploitation is now coming into our homes. It's coming into our schools. It's coming into our devices, and 67% of kids who are exploited online, I believe, is under the age of 18, or have access to internet or to online. To devices. So I think that's why our focus is on that as well. And we found with the work we do that the more and more technology evolves, the more and more, as I said before, these traffickers are organized, and so the more and more technology evolves, the more and more they use that as their platform to do whatever evil things that they want to do. And so that's why we've realized, and we've had cases as well. That's we've seen the online exploitation of kids. I mean, I don't want to scare people, but the content on the online of sexual abuse for children is quite large, alarmingly large and scary. But again, it's not to scare people. We're doing this to bring awareness and give them practical tools to be able to protect themselves and their kids. So that's the reason why the focus is on, because we've just found that with technology, trafficking or exploitation is coming into our homes, coming into our schools through devices, and so it's important that we're aware of how to protect ourselves and our children.
If you don't mind, what is a stupid or quick example that you can give for a young girl or person
online or social media, because I thought immediately social media is so big that can help them not fall prey to trafficking or being a victim of that?
I would say parents need to just educate themselves online, or how to, I mean, there's ways to protect, like sites that you can block as parents from getting your kids on the device, making sure you know their passwords, something as simple as that. But for kids, it's a hard one, because I think the best way is to be open with your parents and have a conversation. I know that's not really kids don't want to talk to their parents about stuff, but I think as parents, if you create enough of a safe environment, you're actually going to allow that opportunity for kids. And just parents, just be aware, because unfortunately it's unavoidable. Everything's about technology. There's even school, some of the schoolwork is done on devices, so you can't avoid that. So it's just practical ways. It's just making sure that you, as a parent, that you know what sites your kids are playing, you know what games your kids are playing, because that's generally how it starts. Because nowadays kids can play video games. They can play video games and they can start talking. And one of the things is, if you're talking to someone, this is probably a practical one, online, and they say, hey, send me your number, let's go offline, I think that's a red flag for kids. If someone kind of says that to you, maybe it's a good thing, hey, to let your parents kind of know. I'll give you a story. Can You See Me campaign. It's our public service announcement that helps the average person see what trafficking is, and also what's the next step. There's a case, I believe in the UK, where a kid was gaming and he met someone who was a girl, quote unquote a girl, and they started having conversations, and then to the point where they started exchanging images. You can imagine what kind of images that they sent in. And then it got so far that the person on the other side, the girl, said, hey, send me a photo of you and your sister doing stuff. And so the boy didn't want to do it. And unfortunately, because it was his sister, and the trafficker would say, if you don't do this, I'm going to send all these pictures to all your school friends. So I think that's the thing. Don't send photos online.
What has this mission opened your eyes to that you might not have seen otherwise if you are not part of?
That's a good question, especially since I've been part of it for a while. Everyone's vulnerable, man. I think that's opened up my eyes. Like,
can happen to anyone.
It's not just the poor, the unemployed. It's parents. I'm a parent of 3 girls. Like, if a trafficker wanted to get to me, my vulnerable spot is my kids. For parents. So I think vulnerability happens. Anyone's vulnerable. No one's exempt from being exploited. That's probably the biggest eye opener.
And
sorry,
go for it.
Question.
Yeah.
Lately in South Africa, there was the Alabuga controversy. I don't know if you heard about it, but I think it was a whole bunch of influencers were advertising a Russian employment program that was mostly targeting females in a number of countries, one of them being South Africa. And then it was shrouded in controversy, because then it came out that, oh my gosh, this Alabuga program is actually a human trafficking scheme that is, targeting young South African women to go over to Russia and to these other places, and they're going to be exploited, working, blah, 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 blah. But I was gonna ask, in a situation like that, what role would A21 play?
Good question. So as I said earlier, we run the National Human Trafficking Hotline. And so the role we play in that is, if someone sees something and they call into the hotline, we immediately will do a screen on what we call a telephonic screening. So we ask questions to see if the person is a victim of trafficking. And once we've identified that person, what we usually do is then we contact our different partners, our law enforcement services, medical services, because those are some of the important things if a survivor's been rescued, having access to medical services or any other service that they might need. So I think that's the big role that A21 plays. We're not an investigative organization, so that's not our gifting, as you say. What we do is we connect people and we help, we do referrals. So if someone calls, like and they need immediate assistance, we're able to refer them to the different organizations and businesses that might be able to help, and especially law enforcement. So I think our role is probably connecting the different services as an organization. I'm not sure if that answered. Yeah, but so I was talking about the hotline. It's 0800 222 777.
Beautiful. I was about to ask what that number is.
Yeah, so it's easy to remember, 0800 222 777. If you just call that, and we get calls from, hey, the traffic light is not working, to like real cases. So just call. We always say rather call and be wrong than not say anything and be right with your feelings. So I think and it might sound like I'm bragging or being biased, but I think as an organization, one of our biggest strengths is being able to connect the different, get the right people involved that eventually sees victims of trafficking be rescued. So, yeah.
Amazing. I know as Christians we understand Christianity, and particularly when you grow in your faith, and the longer you are in your faith, you kind of take it for granted that this is like, even though some people are not saved, but they should know certain things about Christianity. But I know on this podcast we have different types of viewers. We have people who are Christian and who are not. I just want, and the reason I asked this question is because of that, is how does your Christian faith connect with the mission of justice and freedom at A21?
We serve a just God, and I think if He's called us, He'll provide and He'll protect us. I think, and I'm trying not to get too like spiritual, Christianese, as they say.
Yes.
But our God's about the lost and rescuing the lost and saving the lost.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it's kind of our role in it as A21 is. We're the hands and feet of God in terms of being the vessel that's going to help rescue someone, rescue God's children. I think that's my simple response.
In a nutshell. You mentioned that this was a calling for you, A21, and it's always interesting how people know actually what the actual practical work they need to do within being the hands and feet of Jesus Christ. For you answered the call through A21. How did you know that this is what I need to be doing?
It's the wrestle. I think I feel like I've identified when I have a wrestle with God and a decision, I feel like, okay, something's happening here. Yeah, something's happening here. And the fact that it's taken me to something what I thought was my purpose, like sports.
Yes.
I think that's how I know it is, because when I accepted the call and followed it, actually, funny enough, all the other sporting opportunities open up, and it's a journey of obedience.
Yes.
I think that's, in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. If it's taking you from something that you want to do, that's a good sign to pray. And seek God's guidance on that. I think there's a saying: if you wanna hear God laugh, tell Him about your plans. And I think that's, if you take that, it's like, okay, because it's a big laugh, like a sporting guy now doing something completely.
No, it's incredible work, Gilly, and
Thanks,
I think that was the one thing that I knew that I wanted to chat to you about today, and I'm sure it will open up a lot of eyes and bring a lot of knowledge to people, and just raising the awareness, which is like what you said, you'll rather say something than say nothing at all. So moving to your family, your husband, you're a dad to 3 beautiful girls. How do you balance your life with your being a father, being a dad, and just all that you have on your plate?
Man, so my dad, when I first told my dad, I said, I think I'm going to propose to him. My dad actually told me something. He said, hey, awesome, happy for you. Just remember, God first, family, then ministry, which is completely opposite of what I thought. I thought ministry was always the first thing. I think that's probably helped me, God being the forefront of our journey as a family. I think that's just taking that advice alone, simple but effective. I don't know if that answers.
What do you wish your girls learn from how you live your life?
Like I said before, just being consistent, be present. I think as a dad, I think I've learned that being around and being present are two different things. Because you can be around, your kids could be playing and you could be on your phone, and that's not necessarily being present. Being intentional. I think that's what my kids or my girls, I'd like them to know, like being honest, being integrous, being consistent, and just knowing that they're loved by God first and their dad. We always joke, when I started having girls, there's always this joke, every dad's like, oh, you gotta buy a shotgun. And it's fun. In context it's fun, but then somebody told me once, if you have to buy a shotgun, you haven't done your job as a dad. So because they need to know their value. But at the end of the day, I've learned that you can't control everything. You can only do so much, and they have to make the decision themselves. Kind of like our relationship with God is. We know the right thing, but He lets us make our own decisions.
Gilly, just heading towards the end of the episode, I just wanted to ask, with you traveling the world and being in different spaces and seeing different things, how has success, how have you defined success throughout this whole journey?
There's for me, it's the relationship that you build with people. There's a quote that says, like, the success and value of life isn't just determined in your in who you are and what you do, but just as equally important on who you take on the journey. And I think that's something I've kind of hold on to, and I love meeting the people. You'll know through sports. The friendship that you have, that you create. We have, when we got married, somebody actually told me, said, invite the people that will be here in the next 10 years. And it's funny enough, we had a wedding crasher, like a real life wedding crasher. So he actually came, but he was
very interesting. Come on,
so
real life. Let's hear it.
So he was a friend of the pastors that married us, and he came. He's from the States, and they said, "Hey, could he come along?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." Like, come on. And I can tell you now, till this day, we every second, third week, we talk. And I think that consistency, I think just taking people and having the right people in your life, I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I view success is meeting the right people and meeting the people that's part of your journey. Some stay for a season and then they move on, but that's all part of it. But I view success as the people who you impacted. So somebody told me, because when I left TAG, I was like, oh, what impact did I have? And they said, as long as, and you've heard this before, as long as you leave it in a better place than you found it, that's how I view success in a practical sense.
That's a great answer. And knowing you, Gil, for a while now, the type of person that you are, you throughout this whole episode, you're mentioning people, you're mentioning relationships, and you buy into that. You take out of your time to make relationships work. You reach out, and I guess it's also part of your ministry, but I think most importantly is because it's part of who you are, but what I wanted to ask you before I ask you one more question was, what are the challenges that you faced throughout this, all these stages of your life?
Challenges, I think the biggest challenge I find is actually realizing some of the blind spots that I have, because we don't see that.
No, for sure.
And when we face challenges, it's always somebody else's fault. And I think that's the biggest challenge, is realizing you actually got to work on yourself in certain situations. That's the biggest challenge, working on myself. I think I'm good at helping people, but then when it comes to myself and people give me feedback, it's not nice, but it's necessary. I think that's the biggest challenge. Is
how do you tackle that? How do you make sure that you learn from it, it grows you, and you become a better person?
controllable. So we've been in sessions together about controllable. Stephen Covey talks about the circle of control and the circle of concern. Like circle of concerns are important stuff, but they're out of your control, and all the things that you have no influence over. And so the only control you have is how you respond. And I've realized sometimes my response is not great, but then you learn from that. I think that's probably the biggest thing.
It's always crazy because and you mentioned a lot of cliches today, but things become cliches and things that are said. However, it's actually things that work, and that's why they get repeated so much, and they become cliches, you know. And the other thing I liked about what you've said in this episode is that your actions. What action are you taking towards the cliches, the things you're learning, the advice you're getting, and the people that you're interacting with? So that one question I wanted to ask you is, what does being unshakable mean to you personally?
Yes, I think I did. Not gonna lie, I did a bit of research on your previous guests, and one of the words that came up a lot is sacrifice. And we understand, like, to progress, there's a bit of sacrifice. But the biggest thing of being unshakable is, for me, like, sacrifice comes at a cost, but it should never be the cost of compromise. Not compromising your beliefs, not compromising your integrity, not compromising your morals. I think that to me is being unshakable. Obviously, with my faith in Christ, I think that helps me. But I think that's how I see being unshakable.
That's a great answer. Amazing answer. And lastly, someone that is struggling with identity and purpose, what would your advice be to them?
I think it's pretty obvious that comparison, especially with social media these days, is quite big. I think it's easy to say be yourself in a world that kind of forces you to fall in line with what's trending. I'll bring it back to scripture because that's probably example. They say comparison is the biggest killer of potential. And I always think about Moses and the people of Israel, and they're going out, and the Red Sea parts, and then they go, and then Pharaoh chases, and then he obviously dies, you know. And then I always wonder, because Pharaoh was obviously well resourced. For sure. It says that he had chariots and horses. He was a fairly good warrior, a skilled warrior, I'd assume. And one can suggest that Pharaoh didn't die because he had lack of resources or he wasn't talented. No. I think he died because he ran into something that somebody else was meant to walk in. And the people of Israel are meant to walk there, and he ran into the lane that he wasn't supposed to. And I think that to me is probably a good picture of comparison. Just be yourself, be different. And again, we say that, but I think when you know who you are, you'll know who and this is another cliche, but if you know who you are, you'll know who you are. But that's more for the Christian believers. But you got to know who you are. Be comfortable. I think that's the key. Be comfortable with who you are, because then you start comparing yourself, and then it's an unrealistic goal that you set yourself. And when you set your expectations, that's not realistic. It becomes frustrating.
Great advice. Great advice. Gil, you are an incredible man. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us on today's episode. Please continue with the work that you do. I think the individual that you are probably makes the work that you do so much easy, because you make it look easy. And the great thing is that you love what you do, which is so incredible to witness from the outside. And like I said, remain the man that you are, a devoted husband and loving father to your daughters. And thanks for the work you do with 821 in South Africa.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. It was good fun.
Awesome. Unshakeable family, thank you for joining us again. Such an insightful episode. So many takeaways and so much meat from today's episode. I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope you did too. Remember to do the right thing. Subscribe to the channel, and please like the episode and share it with your friends and family and your community. And we'll catch you next time on the next episode of Unshakeable. Cheers.
Thanks for tuning into Unshakeable. If today's story moved you, inspired you, or gave you something to think about, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, resilience isn't about being unbreakable. It's about staying rooted when the world shakes. If you haven't already, hit follow, leave a review, and help us grow this community of resilient voices. Until next time, stay grounded, stay growing, stay unshakable.